Hey, hello everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm Chris with Wave Cafe. Welcome. Today is the 24th of September. Let's take a look at the markets. We continue to have, a little bit of distribution. This is the second day that the markets kind of move higher and then they get rejected, and we tend to close a bit more than halfway from the entirety of that bar that you can see in the charts, which means that the bears are still a little bit under control in here. Now, there's nothing major. It's just a little bit of a sell-off after we've had quite a bit of a run in here. I don't see a problem with the fact that we're pulling back a little bit in here. We don't want this to accelerate too much, but we do have a bunch of defense levels below. So if I look at the 4-hour chart, for example, all you can see right now, it's just a nice three-way setback. So from a shorter term perspective, what I'm watching in here in the S&P 500 is a climb right above this 67.29, 67.30 zone. And if we can get back above that level, that's, to me, it's kind of one of my preferred methods, after I see an ABC, is to kind of try to buy back once the market moves above that pivot point, which is the B wave top, or sometimes it might be like an X wave, but that simple swing in 3 waves, and the top of that can initiate some buying. Until that happens, I don't think I really want to do much. You can see that the market basically, it is kind of back to the level that it broke down from. You have a small head and shoulder in here, so you could actually continue down in a normal type of correction without creating anything out of the ordinary, right? The market still remains in a pretty nice and decent uptrend. So it's basically just kind of respecting the normality of the market. Right? There's nothing really that's abnormal that's happening right now. Not to say that it cannot happen, but we're dealing with kind of what we have in front of us. So I'm seeing a little bit on the RSI that is trying to kind of come back from over 70. Ideally, if you can see a move into a 20-day and an RSI into a 50, I think my wheels will start turning and look for a lot of opportunities in the stocks that I like, if we get over there. See, people were like, well, I hope I can get a correction in some of these stocks so I can get back in. Well, today we've gotten, and yesterday, maybe for the past several days, we've gotten moves, into a lot of stocks like Credo and A-Lab, and, there's others there that were a bit frothy, and, they're now pulling back. So this start to give a chance to those that like those types of stocks, or just to kind of look at opportunities there and start to look how they react from something like a 20-day moving average, or from previous support, what have you, or look at the wave count. But I want to be in line with the market. The market, it's correcting a little bit right now, so I'm giving it a little bit of space in here. So now Nasdaq Composite, it's kind of on the same situation. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart, and it's completely identical in here. And then if we can look at the Russell, nice attempted break and a failure, right? You can see how you had a nice kind of bearish engulfing right after that, but the sell-off is in 3 waves. So we'll see how that goes. And if I look at the daily time frame, we close right at the lows. When you do that, I think that they, at least tomorrow, they want to take it a bit lower. I would think, based on the close that we had today, I would be surprised if you would move straight up without the market at least trying to make another low. So we'll see how it goes. But again, beautiful uptrend. We remain long the small caps in here. So there is really not much to do. I'm not kind of actively trading the indices intraday. I prefer to kind of go in some stocks that are a bit more volatile, and I'm using, put spreads and sometimes even direct stocks so I can get into some things. But right now, the indices, the only thing that I'm long, it's just a Russell, and the rest of them, obviously my longer term accounts, but that's a different story. So, so this is RTI, and then Bitcoin. It's starting to come back. We looked at this setback in here as a 61.8. We can even take a look at the, like at the 4-hour chart in here and see how that looks. we stopped at about what, 111,500 more or less, and then we reacted from there, and we know that that is the 61.8 retracement of this entire rally, something that usually reacts. And now we're coming back, we're starting to get a little bit of a signal. I mean, the volume, it's not yet that strong. Let's see how we're gonna close today. If we can get a bit more power, I would like to see that, and then I would like to see it kind of get back above that. I think that's a 50-day moving average and the 20-day, to kind of get a bit more, let's say, interest from the market, right? So I can jump in the moment that it's actually on the way to be moving. And then I would be even happier if this would go above 118, 120, and there it's going to be the next trigger for further upside. But so far I like what I see in Bitcoin here. Is reacting pretty well. The volume, again, it's not as good. So let's see if if that increases and kind of how we're going to close. But yeah, it's reacting nicely from the 61.8 and from previous levels of support. So I like that. Remember, we were counting this, as a kind of a wave 2 on a larger kind of moving here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I talked about this yesterday, so check that out. I'm not going to the wave count again, but looking at this as a wave 2 or the first section of the wave 2, which means that this would be, either a B wave or an X wave with the next decline lower. The moment that's why this level here is so important, because the moment we climb above that one, the likelihood of this continuing to correct, it's decreasing, which I like to see. So that's on Bitcoin. And then Ethereum, you see, not as much. I mean, it's we're still looking at this as a sometimes a fourth wave, but no real reaction. So we're basically hugging this uptrending 50-day moving average, and we're just finding bids up there, but not enough interest yet to elicit an entry or to see more aggressive buying. I don't see that just yet. So I don't want to participate there. I mean, the interesting fact is that the RSI is at 40, so that's a good spot to kind of buy in downtrends between 40 and 50 with nice volume and with some moving averages. That that usually creates a nice confluence where it's like, hey, things look interesting here, but the price still has to react. So I would go maybe, let's see how it looks kind of on a 4-hour, and I mean, you did have a pretty big flush. Could they retest this low? Maybe. If they retest the low and fail and start to buy aggressively, then that's probably would tell me, hey, go ahead and jump in. But right here at this moment, I don't think there's a lot of edge there. Let's see XRP2, and that is wow, look at this. So coming back nicely. Basically, it flushed. I think I talked about this yesterday in terms of the correction. It flushed quickly below this 274, and we came down to 269 to 70. So that's a great sign. The fact that they cleaned up before the previous low and then they bought it back. I think that is a good signal, and if this would be a stock, I would probably jump in and start to buy small, and then I would add on the break of this level 316 on the XRP, and look to continue to build the position. Now remember, we're still in a little bit of a downtrend in here, so this is still a bit risky. That's why I'm saying, like, based on the fact that you failed to continue lower, once you break this low and you reverse, that's a good sign. And it looks like we did have quite a bit of volume there, although probably most of it was because of the sell-off. But buying just a touch here would probably not be the wrong thing to do, but it needs to be very small because you just want to test the market. And then, if you want to be safer, I would say above these levels, things would start to look better and you would have the wind at your back as the market would move. So, we'll see. I'm going to be a bit more patient in here, but, I do like the reaction that we've gotten in XRP. Then gold sold off a little bit in here. Again, it's in a pretty decent and big uptrend. I talked about this yesterday. I think a lot of people expect this to pull back. That is frothy. I've seen some monthly charts with an RSI that's so high. None of that matters much. In uptrends, things continue to go up or have a tendency to continue to go up. I would not fight this market at all. Gold has to do quite a bit of sell-off to start to convince me that a top might be in place, and I'm not looking to find a top here. You would basically have to drop all the way back to like 3,300 or so before I would even think about approaching gold from the short side. And then I would so what I would do, just a quick parenthesis here, I would probably wait for something like this to start happening, maybe a 5-wave move down there, and then I would probably sell a 3-wave setback for the next leg lower. But until that happens, I'm not interested in. And gold could really squeeze and begin, much larger type of a fifth wave where it really gets. There's nothing here that's necessarily climactic in gold. I mean, gold can really, open the floodgates and push. So we'll see what happens. But again, I'm not a proponent of shorting gold. And then silver just sits nice and tight. It continues to look fairly good, a bit extended, but nothing wrong there. And then the dollar index, it is trying to create a bit of a reversal after it just kind of took the stops below these levels. So it's a bit tricky if the dollar gets back above these levels back here. I think we might have a much larger recovery, and that could put pressure on equities, might put pressure on crypto too. So watch the dollar here. I would like for it to start failing again at this moving average and start to kind of turn back down like that. That would be helpful for risk assets. So thanks for watching. I will talk to you probably tomorrow. Bye.